Beautiful. Okay. Let me just hide that white zombie MP4 over there. All right. Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Chase. I'm going to be talking to you today about BlockStack. BlockStack is a new decentralized internet. No, not that one. It's a company created by two co-founders named Ryan Shea and Munib Ali. It's been around for about 2 years, and they're, in my opinion, the closest thing to like a fully functional decentralized internet platform that there is. So today I'm going to be talking about how to build JavaScript apps on top of the BlockStack stack. So this is a little bit about me. That picture is taken in Berlin at the BlockStack conference there. We had it was an insane conference. We had Nick Szabo, who basically invented smart contracts, speak. Yeah, it was amazing. So I'm a React developer from Minnesota. I built one of the first BlockStack apps, which was how I got kind of ingrained in the community. It was called Coins, and you can look it up there. I've got the URL. And then we actually ended up winning their bounty. They had a bounty running for building like the best cryptocurrency portfolio app. Then I joined the BlockStack team briefly to help them build out their interfaces. During that time, I spoke at Reactathon 2018 in San Francisco, doing this very talk, a little bit different, just to pare it down because I've got 10 minutes rather than 20. Gave a workshop at the BlockStack blockchain conference about data management strategies in BlockStack. So that's all I've got as far as PowerPoints. I'm going to talk to you a bit about how I kind of discovered BlockStack. So about a year ago, I was on Hacker News, starting my mornings off as I typically do, and I found this post called "The BlockStack Browser: Gateway to a New Decentralized Internet." And I was curious about what it was. So I read this article, clicked into BlockStack, and checked it out, watched some videos, and then I clicked install. So BlockStack, how it works is currently it's a download. It's an app that you run on your machine. It runs on a local port on your browser, so you can run it in Chrome right now. And I think there's a Safari port as well. So if I were to click download here, I would get BlockStack. And if I were to open BlockStack, it would take me through an onboarding process where I can create an identity. I'll talk about why this identity is decentralized in a moment. But this is what it looks like once you're inside of BlockStack. So there are some apps. They have some fully functional messaging apps, which are fully peer-to-peer, fully encrypted, fully decentralized, users own their own data, et cetera. Here are the token portfolio apps that came out of that bounty. And then here's some in-progress apps as well. It is a relatively new technology, so there's not a ton of stuff out there yet. But I can draw your attention to Graphite, which is like a Microsoft Google Suite alternative, built fully decentralized so the users own their own data. So once you have that installed, you've got your identity created. This is my ID, hologram.id. That's the namespace I've registered in BlockStack. And you can also add some social verifications just to prove that it's you when you're using these new decentralized apps. So I built this simple app called Block Notes, just to show exactly what goes on behind the scenes when you're using a BlockStack app. So this is a note-taking app called Block Notes, positioned to be the most successful note-taking app of all time. So here I have, you can see we're on localhost 8888. That's because BlockStack is running on my local machine. Whoops. Let me click sign in again. OK, cool. And so now I'm in Block Notes. You can see that it knows my name because I've registered on BlockStack my identity. And then we can take some notes. OK, so that's all simple. That's well and good, right? Looks like any other app. But I'll draw your attention to two things. One, the identity service. So this is kind of like Google OAuth, right? But it's fully decentralized. It works through a blockchain. Your identity is registered on the Bitcoin blockchain, but it can be ported to other blockchains too. That's kind of just what they use right now, is the Bitcoin blockchain. And then the other thing is this data management layer. So this data is persisted to a storage provider that you select when you register your identity. That could be Dropbox, Google Drive, your own storage provider service somewhere. It could be a hard drive in your basement. It doesn't matter. So BlockStack is set up in a way where you can write these middlewares for the storage provider and interface with apps that want to save data to it. So when I add a note, let's go over to the Network tab. Let's see what happens. OK, so the first one was a fetch. How I've got this set up is first you fetch the notes.json file so that we're ensuring that it's up to date with what's remote. And then we post to notes.json. And so down here, you see the request payload is actually an encrypted cipher load. So the cipher text is that note that we just took, but it's encrypted with a private key that's generated when you register your identity. And the only way to decrypt that is to locally decrypt it with your private key that you use when you sign into BlockStack on your machine. So it's fully P2P encrypted. If somebody were to hack into Dropbox, they could never see your data. And then the other interesting thing is, so this name. So I console logged out the object that gets returned when you sign in with BlockStack. I'll show you the code in a second. And this is what it looks like. So this is a schema.org schema of type person. We've got a description, family name, given name, image. So you register this once with BlockStack, and then every app that you auth into using BlockStack gets that payload in response. They can also see which verified accounts you've set up. And then, aha, here it is, my Dropbox that I'm saving all of my data to. OK, yeah, so there's a handy BlockStack Explorer, too, that you can check out what's actually in the blockchain for each name record. So you notice my username was hologram.id. I can search for that, and then I can see the actual blockchain transaction that created that ID. And then any other histories associated with my ID. Let's say that I bought something using BlockStack, because there's also a transaction layer for payments. And then you can see that there's this zone file. So how this works behind the scenes is when you register an identity, using the Bitcoin blockchain, the Bitcoin block has like an arbitrary metadata field where you can store, like, let's say you're selling T-shirts and you're accepting Bitcoin. If you wanted to store like the size and color of that shirt, you'd put it in the arbitrary data field in the block that handled the transaction. So BlockStack does the same thing, but instead of doing T-shirt data, we create this kind of zone file. And that zone file, if I take that and just plop it in here, it's public. If it will load, there it is. So this gets stored into my Dropbox. So this is a zone file reference that tells you all about my user, and then also some information about which accounts that I've authed, or which apps that I've authed into. So using the same philosophy about decentralizing identity, using blockchain that points to a zone file for user information, can be applied to a decentralized DNS. If you can imagine, that instead of a target for the data bucket, it's just a target for an IP address. And there's a billion other things involved there, but that's the gist of it. Yeah, so I'm running up against 9 minutes. Here, let me show you the code quickly, just to show you how easy it is. So BlockStack has a BlockStack.js library with a bunch of methods. So you can check if the user signed in. If they are, we call this getNotes method. Let me make that a little bigger. And all it does is find the notes.json file in the user's storage bucket. And then we want to decrypt that data because we're encrypting it. And then we're setting the state of notes to that parsed response. So if you add a note, here's the code for that. So we're just taking the current state of notes in the app, generating a new short ID as a computed property value, and then setting the value of that text field here. And then we're just using the BlockStack.putFile method to just put some data into notes.json. So yeah, a billion other things. Is kind of a short talk for how big this concept is, but I'd love to take any questions if there are any. Yeah, go ahead.
How does it scale?
How does it scale? Okay.
If you have, if you're Atlanta Hospital or if you're SBS Commerce or something, you're doing 1 million transactions an hour.
And you want them to be all in one place, right? You don't want each user's data to be in their own bucket. So you have to, it's kind of tricky. And there's still work being done to solve that problem. But I think that similar to how Ethereum works with their smart contract code, which is auditable, online, open source, people can go in and make sure that that code is credible. You'd write like an indexer that's open to the world. Anybody can go and see what's accessing their code to or their data to index it. And then maybe that would be one way to do it. Actually, this is really scalable in one regard, in that you don't have to pay for any storage like space. Each user pays for their own, which actually makes a lot of sense because it's your property, right? You don't squat on land. You rent or pay for the land that you own. Same way, same philosophy with the data here. So yeah, to answer the question, scalable for like looking, analyzing mass quantities of user data, open question. But for each user's data, it's a lot cheaper to host. So hope that answers.
New scalability problems.
We're swapping. Yeah.
Links?
Yeah. Links? Oh, sure. My links or BlockStack links? OK, yeah. So BlockStack has a GitHub repo. All this code is open source. You could actually take all the code, create a new BlockStack foundation tomorrow with the exact code, and just go from there. So look up BlockStack on GitHub. I think it's github.com/BlockStack. And then they're also very active on their blog and on Twitter.
Does it plug in with the law?
Not yet.